Yo, 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 welcome to another edition of Roundball Ramble. I'm your host, Corban Ford. You can follow me on Twitter at Corban NBA. Listen, y'all, we have a treat for y'all today. I have a special guest, Nick Andre, on board to talk Trade Tuesday, which is an off-again, on-again segment that I do here as we get closer to the trade deadline. And we discuss teams that should make a move, players that are most likely to be traded, our favorite trade that we've seen on social media, and then, of course, as he's a first-time guest, which continues to surprise me as you listen to the episode I did with him, I ask all first-time guests a question, which is, what is their go-to pickup move? Something I like to find out, a little bit of scouting report if you heard, so definitely excited about that. So definitely make sure to sit back and check that out. Yesterday was Martin Luther King Day. Did not do an episode. Out of respect to that, I feel really weird about Martin Luther King Day and basketball. I guess in a sense because what he stood for is important. I think the message is important. And yes, like, was he a perfect man? Absolutely not. But like the message of equality that he stood for and trying to strive to that more perfect union is something that continues to be a thing that looks good on shirts and we talk about a lot, but like is lost in my mind in the grand scheme of things. I mean, even during basketball, in my mind, like you have, of course, the interviews before the show in the pregame, and you get clips of Dr. Martin Luther King as we go into commercial break. But really, it's about the basketball, right? That's all that everyone's really looking at. And I feel like there could be more powerful messaging or more additional programming that the NBA could do to integrate Dr. King's message, if it means that much, which it does, to make that a thing, or don't entirely. I just think the little half on, half off is a little frustrating outside of the NBA on TNT coverage of it. So that's something that I really wish was addressed. And I thought, hey, I'm not going to say how important Martin Luther King was and then go into game highlights. Like, that's not what I wanted to do. So I didn't. But the basketball was great. Bunch of good games across the board, whether it was LeBron and the Lakers getting a good quote-unquote quality win against the Oklahoma City Thunder, or you had a down-to-the-wire finish between the Dallas Mavericks going up against the New Orleans Pelicans with a pair of 40-point games from Kyrie Irving and Tim Hardaway Jr., which is the third time that two teammates 30 or older combined for 40-plus in the same game. I think the other time was Jordan and Pippen in the 1990s, and then in 1973, I think it was 1996 that Jordan and Pippen combined for like 83. And then in 1973, both Jerry West and Elgin Baylor each scored 40. So really cool to see that done. It was a really good game, a lot of great shot making. But those are the two standout games for me, and I definitely want to highlight that. But on this one, yeah, we're talking trades. We got Nick Andre on. Make sure that you follow him on Twitter at Nick Andre ATR. One more time at Nick Andre ATR. And then I have one more thing I want to share with y'all before we really get going into the show here, and that is the importance of sticking with your New Year's resolution and coming with that energy. Listen, y'all. I'm already tired. I wake up tired. I'm sure we all do, right? Middle of January, crazy to think a month is almost gone, yet here we are. And it's not too late to get something to solve some problems for you. It's not too late to step up. Get the energy you need. Be more productive in your day. Be more attentive. Not bounce off the walls. Not lose focus. Not forget things. I have the solution for you, y'all. It's called Magic Mind. Yep, that's right. Magic Mind. It is something that's already in Sprouts Farmers Markets, but I have a deal for you to get a subscription that I think is really, really good. Check out Magic Mind everywhere, and you can do this by going to my code here that I'm about to share with you, which is www.magicmind.com/dailynba. That's www.magicmind.com/dailynba, and the code is dailynba20. Let me tell y'all, Magic Mind has all natural ingredients that I think will help you out so much, including matcha, which y'all know from matcha green tea, matcha smoothies, the green stuff, right? But what matcha does, it contains way less caffeine than coffee and also contains additional compounds called catechins that extend the benefits of caffeine by slowing your body's ability to absorb it all, as well as additional compounds that reduce stress. And they work together to prevent that spike in cortisol levels and the inevitable crash that comes from taking too much caffeine. Really important. It's your extended release version of caffeine. That's what matcha is. And it's that in combination with so many other healthy ingredients. Ashwagandha, my mom loves the stuff that helps reduce stress and anxiety, that really makes Magic Mind a thing to check out. So please make sure to do that. Again, Go to www.magicmind.com/dailynba. Get on there, get a few bottles, and then after you're hooked, you can get a subscription with up to 50% off with my code DailyNBA20. DAILYNBA20. I forgot how to spell daily for a second. That was funny. So make sure to check out Magic Mind and then tell them Corban sent you. They won't know who I am. It won't matter. Tell them Corban sent you. All right, y'all. So here, time to sit back, relax, and enjoy my great conversation with Nick Andre. Check him out. He's a basketball aficionado, maestro, all things NBA, WNBA, college, high school. You kid up the corner shooting hoops. He knows about them. So make sure to check him out there. And until next time, y'all, I am Frosty. Y'all stay frosty, and I'll talk to y'all real soon. All right, y'all. Yo, we are back. What is up? Another episode of Ramble. I'm your host, Corban Ford. Follow me on Twitter, @CorbanNBA. This is a Sports Ethos presentation, so check out Sports Ethos on Twitter, @Sports Ethos, online, sportsethos.com. All right, when y'all listen to this, will be Tuesday, the 16th of January. We are just past the midpoint of the month, and we are exactly, less than a month away from the NBA trade deadline, which is one of my favorite days next to the first day of free agency, NBA draft day. I mean, us NBA sickos, we have days that are already marked. And speaking of NBA sickos, I have a basketball sicko up here to join me as we talk NBA trades and all things concerning that, whether it's high school, college, NBA, WNBA, you know, your little kid outside playing a basketball across the yard. He probably knows about him. You follow him on Twitter @Nick Andre, ATR, all one word. His name's Nick Andre. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Appreciate you for having me on, Corban. It's funny that you mentioned, this year is kind of going by quick. Because even I was thinking about that earlier. Like, we're only 2 weeks into 2024, and we're already at MLK Day, and February is like right around the corner. So this year is already flying by, and we're only 2 weeks in. It's crazy.
It is wild. I mean, I was literally at what was I doing? Today I was looking through some of the articles I was reading from Basketball Intelligence, and I saw one team go, after 41 games, how is this team looking? I'm like, it's been 41 games?
41 games is crazy.
Like, it is wild. I mean, it's just wild. And I don't know whether it's just because there's so many tough teams. I mean, obviously you have like the horrible teams, the Pistons, the Wizards, although they like to think they're better. Yeah. You have all these other bad teams, but like, it feels like there's such a relative parity there that right. I'm like, I don't see like the 28s and 6s or something like that.
That is true.
Yeah, so it definitely
it's crazy too. Like now, it's crazy too that you mentioned it because like I remember me getting ready for opening night with the Nuggets and the Lakers, and now here we are in mid-January, and we're talking about 41 games in. Yeah, the season goes by quick, man.
It is crazy. It is crazy. I don't know. It's one of those things where before you know it, I'm gonna be looking at myself where I was just talking to you before recording about how just gotta stay consistent. It can be hard sometimes. All the things, and then before you know it's gonna be off season again. It's gonna be like, dang, can't wait for the season to start. I got all these ideas, all these things to get to, and it's just the cycle. But it's a marathon. We're at the halfway point. But speaking of that, we talking trades. We talking trade deadline coming up. It feels. I mean, all the word on the street lends itself to being a quiet trade deadline. It never truly is. There's been some that have been more hyped up and not like actually come through.
Right.
But like, there's always something happening, right? I mean, even now I have the Lakers. I was just before I came to record, I was putting on the Lakers Thunder game on my TV, and it was showing how the Lakers are pursuing DeJounte Murray, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, there's always something. And that's what we're gonna talk about here. We got a few things, just general trade discussions, and a fun question I love to ask all my first time guests at the end. And it's hilarious because I was writing this, I'm like, this is the first time I had you on? That's wild. But I've been on your show so many times.
Yeah, I know, man. You've been on MNC a lot of times, man. You basically like our fourth co-host.
And I love y'all. And please plug on that show too. That's a lot of fun with y'all. But I need to get y'all on here as well. Especially just knowing y'all, talking with y'all, all the things. But
that's a fact.
Let's start with, it's gonna drop on Tuesday. I'm calling it Trade Tuesday. Let's start with the trade that went down that, it happened. Washington Wizards, Detroit Pistons. Two teams ironically played each other today or last night as I listen to this. But basically, Marvin Bagley went to Washington, and Danilo Gallinari, Mike Muscala went to the Pistons. What do you think about that? On its head, it's a salary thing. But was there any larger points you took from that? Any other observations you had? Just curious about that.
So it's funny. So when this trade first went down, so I'm sure you're in a lot of group chats, with covering NBA and everything. So the group chats were obviously going crazy, talking about the whole trade. And for some reason, I just kind of overlooked it. I didn't really take it serious. I guess maybe just because where the Pistons and where the Wizards are at, as far as their teams. So I didn't really look much into it. But this morning, I took kind of a closer look at it. And it's like you mentioned, it's more of a contract thing. Obviously, with Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala, both of those guys are on expiring contracts. So, the question is, what's the future look like for them in Detroit? But I don't know. It's I can't say I hate it for both sides. Obviously, these are two teams that need to move in different directions. And at the end of the day, you got to start from somewhere. So I'll start with the Wizards, getting a guy like Marvin Bagley. I'm sure everybody knows that his NBA career has been a little underwhelming, to say the least. He's had his good moments, but then, he's also not been able to exceed the expectations that many people had on him when he came into the NBA. So I try to look at it maybe this could be a new start, because obviously in Detroit, they're so front court heavy with him, with Jalen Duren, with Isaiah Stewart, and then so many others. So obviously, with this trade now, and, I still kind of question where he does fit, with this Wizards team, whether he does start to come off the bench. I'm probably sure he'll probably come off the bench. But also another guy as well that's a part of this trade as well is Isaiah Livers, who I'm personally a fan of.
Forgot him. Ooh, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Slip it.
Yeah, Livers, I think he's a pretty good wing. He's had his moments as well in Detroit. But obviously, he wasn't going to get a lot of shine playing next to guys like Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and others. So, maybe this could possibly be an opportunity where he could shine at that wing position, playing next to guys like Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, and other guys. So for the Wizards, I try to look at it. I try to be optimistic for, with the Wizards, just because, they've been making a lot of moves, even dating back to this summer, acquiring Jordan Poole in the trade from Golden State. And then, of course, they got Kuzma a few years ago from the Lakers. So I'm trying to be optimistic with the team, man, because, at least on paper, I like a lot of the talent that they have, but it just hasn't resulted in winning. So I'm just hoping that obviously this trade here doesn't elevate them, as a playoff contender, but it could be a stepping point in the right direction. And as far as for Detroit, obviously everybody knows about the losing streak. And I've been on record saying that, this team is missing a key veteran piece. And as much as I'm a big fan of Bogdanovich, I didn't know if he was going to be the guy that could really be that voice in the locker room for these young guys. Because, there's a lot of great young players on this Pistons team. And I think that they're missing a key voice in the locker room, a key veteran who has had experiences, in the past. So I don't know if Danilo Gallinari or Mike Muscala can be those guys, but, obviously Gallinari, he's been a key valuable player, starting from whether it's New York, whether it's Denver, OKC, Atlanta, and then, other teams as well. So, I think that he could be valuable on his team, but I don't know if he's the veteran that they need. But obviously he's a sniper from three, so, obviously he'll help from that aspect. But, that it's like I said earlier, with him being on an expiring contract, with Mike Muscala being on an expiring contract, I still question, what the future may look like for those guys. But at the end of the day, I'm not mad at it, man. Obviously, this trade, like I said, it's not going to elevate these teams both as playoff contenders, but it could be a stepping stone in the right direction. So I'm trying to be optimistic about it.
No, I'm with you for sure. I definitely thought between Gallinari and Muscala, I have a little bit of a bone to pick for Muscala because as a Laker fan, trading
I remember that
2018, trading Ivica Zubac for him and then him just forgetting how to shoot totally turned me off on it. But he's still a good player. Still
that was at LeBron first year, wasn't it?
Yes.
I want to say, yeah.
2019, trade deadline 2019. And it was you had a young starting center who's been contributing for the Clippers for the last 5 years. And instead, we got a rental who didn't even do the job that they traded him to do. So I just found that a complete, I was very upset by him. But mind you, he had been in Oklahoma City for a while. He was good there. He's a good proven vet. He's been good in Washington. And Danilo Gallinari, I felt bad for because, of course, turning his ACL in Boston, he should be at this stage of his career on contending teams. And he just finds himself on teams that are not that, Detroit is not that. I think, fortunately, he's a free agent at the end of this year, if I remember correctly. But we'll see what happens. He's also going to be, 36? So we'll see. But he's a guy where, I guess they will help Detroit a little bit. But when you're, 4-37 or something, what does that get you? Another win or two? It's over,
that. It's over.
Exactly. it's a wrap in Detroit. It's been that for a minute, right? And like for Washington, yeah, like I don't think it's moving lawn chairs, but like Liver's a solid player. If he can rediscover his shooting stroke, great. Absolutely got yourself somebody, a swingman who can shoot the ball a little bit, give you some spacing because your team needs it, right? Marvin Bagley, let me ask you about him because do you have any hope for him moving forward? Like he's still a number 2 pick, but is he like a number 2 pick? Like I'm not gonna throw any draft bust tonight. Is he just a number 2 pick that's just never gonna pan out, or do you think it's like he's they say a second draft player? Is he like a 4th draft player?
I'm trying to keep my hopes high for him because I was really high on him, coming out of Duke. And I know that, during his early career in Sacramento, he dealt with the injuries and everything, and it seemed to never pan out. And then, of course, Sacramento wasn't in a position to win at that time. So, and then obviously, moving to Detroit, they weren't in that position as well. But honestly, I think for Marvin Bagley, I think at this point, even if you can't thrive as a number 2 or number 3 option, I mean, you can still be a great role player. You can still be a great rim protector. You can still be great in the pick and roll. So, it's just like the little things that he can possibly do to help elevate the team as a whole, man. So, like I said, I don't know if he'll pan out as many number 2 players are projected to be, coming out of college, but I still believe that he can be a great role player. It's almost like, him and James Wiseman are kind of in the same trajectory because James Wiseman was also a number 2 pick. And then obviously things didn't pan out in Golden State. Now he's in Detroit, and he's had his moments, but with the resurgence of guys like Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart, he's not going to get that PT. So I think that him and Marvin Bagley are kind of in the same position. But like I said, I mean, back to Bagley, if he can just find a way to be a valuable role player, I think that he can have some longevity in his career. But now in this position in Washington, where they have a lot of other young guys, maybe this could possibly be the best situation for him. I don't know, but we'll just have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, like you said, it's going to be a wait and see, and we'll see if it even maybe down the line this season, as teams even further check out when they play Washington, he puts the better numbers, and you're like, wow, look at good production, whether it's empty calories or whatever. Exactly right. What we've been waiting for from him. We'll see. Time will tell, or it won't, because at this point, Bagley's been in the league for 6 years now. So
yeah, what was he? 18?
18.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And that's a great draft class too.
Yeah.
When you think about it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna be one of those things that we definitely look back on. But looking back, moving on from that, moving forward, trade deadline, we have the team swirling, right? Pistons and Wizards. You think the Pistons might factor in a little bit more of the trade deadline for whatever reason? Whether it's the Lakers, the Bulls, the Hawks, the Raptors. Which teams do you think need to make a move? Like, forget the whole trying thinking about it. What teams you like? Hey, they need to do something.
So it's funny. I got like multiple teams on my list as far as who I believe should make a trade.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, I'll start my list here. First, I'll say with the Lakers, your beloved Lakers.
Yes, it hurts.
I think it is time. They haven't really been that great since the in-season tournament championship. And I think what it is that the role players have been very, very inconsistent. Because the thing about LA is that people are always going to look to point at the stars. And I'll be real, I don't think it's the stars at all. I think LeBron James has been great. I think Anthony Davis has been great. I just think that they haven't gotten really consistent play out of the role players. Like even Austin Reeves, he's been a hit or miss. D'Angelo Russell, he's been a hit or miss, which is the reason why he got put to the bench. Rui, even as great as he was last year, after the trade, I think he's been kind of a hit or miss as well. Same thing with Taurean Prince. So, and I mean, I'm not saying that these guys are bad players, but it seems like they haven't done enough to help elevate that Lakers team throughout the course of the season, especially when you look next door and you see what the Clippers are doing and how well they have been playing. And obviously they have more star power than the Lakers do, but to see their resurgence and to see the Lakers kind of declining, it's not really a good look. So I mean, obviously last year they made that big trade, sending Russ away, sending a few other guys away, and we saw how that panned out. They got to the conference finals. So, who knows? Maybe this could be another situation where, by the trade deadline, they can make some moves. Another team is the Golden State Warriors. Pascal Siakam has been, on their radar allegedly, and I saw some rumors where the Raptors were asking for Jonathan Kuminga, and then the Warriors were hesitant about it. And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with them, with the front office. But I don't know if people are really paying attention in Toronto. But Pascal Siakam's still playing really great basketball. I still think that he has a lot of value, as a power forward. Obviously he's a champion, so he knows how to win at the highest level. If the Warriors can find a way to grab him And then, of course, get another possible big. I think that'll be really interesting. I put the Hawks on here, but I'll just be honest with you, man. I think the Hawks are just blow it up at this point.
They're cooked.
Yeah, I mean, they were up like 30 points to the Spurs earlier today, and they almost blew that lead. So, it's been a decline for the Hawks since that year that they made the conference finals when they lost to Philly. And even though Trae Young has been pretty good, DeJounte Murray, I believe he's having a career year, shooting wise. So even though those guys have been great, it hasn't really translated to like regular season success at least. So I'll be real. Like, I mean, I put the Hawks in this list, even though I do believe that I do agree with you. They are cooked. And I think after this year, regardless of, whether they are a playing team or playoff team, I think that they should make some drastic changes after this year. Another team that I had was the Suns.
Okay.
I would love to see if they could get like more of a traditional point guard in a way. Somebody who really prioritizes the playmaking, because even though Devin Booker is a good playmaker, I don't know if it's really been beneficial for them. And I'll have to look more into Suns games, but also I can understand as well, because what would that lineup look like if you had a point guard and then you had Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, then I guess Yusuf Nurkic. So that's something that I still have questions about, but I would love to see if the Suns could possibly find a way to get like a real point guard who can make the game easier for those three talented scorers. Another team that I did have as well was the Spurs. I believe that they could use a point guard as well, and I saw that DeJounte was on their radar as well. And I know things may have not ended well for DeJounte, leaving San Antonio, because if people remember, I remember he did an interview on All the Smoke, and he was pretty much explaining, what went down in San Antonio and, the reason why he had left. But maybe that could be a possible reunion with him and Greg Popovich. And, maybe – because I'll be real, like, I mean, as much as a fan that I am of Trey Jones, I don't know if he's the point guard that you could have playing next to a guy like Victor Wembanyama. So
yeah,
maybe DeJounte could possibly be that guy, maybe not. But if they could get like a true point guard playing next to Wemby, I think that could benefit him more than anything. And the last team that I had was the Milwaukee Bucks. And the reason why I have them is because at least last year compared to this year, their perimeter defense has taken a massive step down. And obviously, obviously losing Drew Holiday, that was big. But also acquiring Damian Lillard, who was a great scorer and who just had a game winner against Sacramento, that was huge. So obviously you elevated. Yep, exactly. I mean, obviously you elevated offensively, but I think perimeter defense wise, I think they definitely declined. So if they can get like a terrific on-ball defender, a terrific perimeter defender on that roster, I think it'd be big for them.
No, I like all the ones that you mentioned. I think those are really solid. I guess a few of them are interesting because, like, for example, the Suns. A guard, I like their guard setup. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I think
I get that.
Like between Bradley Beal and Booker, I think in my head, and I'm sure we've seen this on Twitter and stuff. They almost remind me of the Clippers in the sense of like,
I get that.
You want them to have a point guard, but then when you think about it, it's like their best players are gonna dominate the ball so much anyway, and they're probably your best decision makers that it may not be the best idea. Like, okay, with the Clippers it was different. I thought some of the guys that they were targeting, I would have preferred a point guard. But the problem is, like, Paul George can initiate a fair bit, and he's going to have the ball in his hands down the stretch, right? Kawhi made himself in that type of player. And then when you look at guys like Booker and Beal, like, yes, they're not point guards, right? But, like, they've been quote-unquote point guards for their teams in the past already. Yeah. That it's like, might as well just keep it there. And I think Steve Jones and Nekias Duncan and JJ Redick had like a good – I didn't finish it, but they had like a good – clip there. They're kind of giving their opinion more on that. But I guess the biggest thing for me, even if they could, I'd be like, okay, great. Like, if you can find someone that you're like, hey, this guy's a better fit, we're going to go for him, great. With what assets, though? I guess that's my bigger question, because unless you're going to wait for a buyout guy, I don't know if that comes out. But I mean, even when you say that, I still think the Suns need someone, right? Like, they're a solid team, but I don't know. I was never high on their depth outside of the big three. And they have like interesting pieces, but I just mean long-term like consistency.
No, I get that. And honestly, I mean, you make a valid point when you bring up the Clippers as well. I guess the one thing I could say is the difference, at least with the Clippers, is that over the past few years, James Harden's pretty much stepped in as more so like a playmaker. I think he's more prioritized in being a playmaker more than a scorer for the past recent years. So I feel like that's why it worked out so well for them, just because, he could take the pressure off of guys like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who are great off-ball players and who can play efficiently off-ball. So that does make the game easier for them. And like I said, I mean, I think Devin Booker is a great point guard, but I don't know. It's really interesting. It's really interesting to me, you know, how that dynamic has been. But obviously, with Bradley Beal being sidelined, you know, multiple times, and him, you know, still trying to find his way back. You know, maybe we should see a little bit more of this dynamic tandem with those three guys in a larger package than what we have now. It's for me to, like, you know, kind of have a different opinion, but I definitely agree with you. You know, I don't know if there's anybody that they could possibly trade for, but if they could possibly find a guy, you know, on a buyout market who may be released by a team or anything, you know, I would honestly want to see the Suns, you know, make a run at a guy.
Yeah, you know, like you said, just being around and trying to upgrade by any stretch. Because right now, this team, I mean, they're in the same boat as the Lakers and
Exactly.
the Warriors. They're like slightly better. Now, mind you, are they better? Yes.
On paper, yeah.
The Lakers and Warriors have both been floundering, but like when you look at it record-wise, they look similar, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I completely agree with you there for sure. Of the other teams that you mentioned, I guess what team are you like? Okay, like the Suns, if they make one, they're in there for me on the list of yes. If they make a move, that'd be great. I think they need to, but if they don't, okay, fine, you can take your chances. Like of those teams you mentioned, what team is like if you walk away and you haven't done anything, it's a problem.
Out of all of these teams, I would say out of all of them, maybe the Hawks, just because I feel like they're kind of, at least, or I mean, obviously the Spurs are the worst team, but I think the Hawks out of all those teams are the second worst. And it's like I said, you know, they've, you know, and I get it, you know, they made a lot of big moves, you know, since that year that they made the conference finals. Obviously, getting DeJounte a few years back, but you know, it seems like they've been on the decline ever since that year that they did make where they did make the conference finals run. And you know, Trae Young has had his good moments. DeJounte, you know, like I said, you know, he's having a career year, at least shooting wise. DeAndre Hunter is still to me like a hit or miss, and it's crazy because I was really, really high on him coming out of Virginia. And then of course, you know, you got other guys as well. I mean, I do love what Jalen Johnson has been doing. You know, his emergence, you know, he has been key. So, you know, that's obviously a guy that you want to continue to keep on your roster, you know, especially moving forward. But for sure. I don't know, it's just, you know, the Hawks haven't really been that great to me. They haven't really been that impressive. And I don't want to be that guy that says, oh man, Trae Young can't leave the team, but it just seems like that this roster currently constructed just hasn't been able to get the job done. So like I say, you know, they may not make any trades, you know, during the deadline. They may just wait till the offseason, but I will say, you know, after this year, some drastic changes should happen in Atlanta.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good one. I also think another one would be Golden State.
Golden State too.
Like, just something's not working.
I mean, I'm on record saying as well, you know, drastic changes need to happen there as well. Like I said, I don't know who's leaving. I don't, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, Clay's out or Draymond's out or whatever it is, but some things are about to happen. Because even last year after the Lakers series, I was saying, yo, like, I mean, obviously the big three, you know, they're gonna stick around forever, but this dynasty isn't what it was back 6-7 years ago. And I mean, and obviously, you know, that's expected. You know, the league has changed a lot since they were really on the hunt for championships, and then obviously, you know, with them aging as well. So at least to me, you know, with Stephen Curry still playing at a high level and still, you know, being able to lead a team, I think that this team has to make some drastic changes as well.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that has to happen. I mean, if not, it's like, what are they doing? You know, and exactly. Whether it is tough conversations, because at this point, Klay Thompson's kind of playing his way into a discount for the Warriors, right? And then if you
he wanted that extension too.
He did. And I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, but it's prudent for the Warriors not to have given it to him.
Yeah.
Because at first I thought, okay, you know, Klay starts slow, he has slumps, stuff like that. But this is different. It just feels like he's just regressed. And I feel bad because the injuries have been a factor, but it's happened, right?
Right. And that's the thing too, is like you mentioned, is, you know, a lot of it is out of his control because he did deal with those gruesome injuries. So I can understand it, but I don't know, man. It's been bad for Klay, and he just can't seem to find his rhythm. I mean, he's had his little moments, but overall, you know, it's just been a really inconsistent year for him. Like, I mean, on both ends of the court, because I mean, people know him as a great perimeter defender, but even he hasn't been that. You know, I mean, you can tell that he's lost his steps. So, you know, it's just been a very up and down year for Klay Thompson, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the next kind of thing I would think about with Golden State is the conversation around Steph Curry. Like, are you prepared to have that conversation with Steph Curry that is more reminiscent of the twilight years of Kobe Bryant? Although that was kind of self-inflicted because he was the one who signed that massive contract.
Yeah, he did.
Or, you know, the twilight years of Dirk Nowitzki, where it's like, hey, you know, it went from we're going to try to field a competitive team to, hey, this is kind of where we're at. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? We had a great run, and we want you to stay on this team, the only team we've ever known. But this is what we are. Like, do you think it's time for the Warriors to have that conversation? Like, if there isn't a move they can make for, say, a Pascal Siakam or a guy that you look at and go, okay, you know what? That puts us right back in the mix.
I believe so. At the end of the day, as long as Steph Curry is still playing at a high level, you still want to remain contenders. You don't want to waste the last however many years of his prime just tanking and not being part of the playoff race. I'm glad that you mentioned both Kobe and Dirk, because obviously both of those guys were obviously in the twilight years of their career. Kobe had dealt with the Achilles injury and everything, so he clearly wasn't what he once was before. But Steph is still playing at the highest level, and he's still, in many people's eyes, one of the best point guards in the NBA. So, in my opinion, like if you're the Golden State Warriors, and this is where Mike Dunleavy has to be aggressive here, because he's still new in this position. Obviously filling in for Bob Myers, who stepped down. So, this is going to be something really interesting for him to possibly figure out a way to keep this team as contenders. So, if you got to move some young pieces, and I get it, I know I love Kuminga, I love Moses Moody, and I love a lot of these young guys, but if you want to remain contenders and you got Pascal Siakam, on the radar, I think you got to acquire him. I think it is essential that they have to acquire a guy of his caliber. I get it, will it make them championship contenders right away? Probably not, but Siakam still, I want to say still like late 20s, early 30s, something like that. So
yeah, well he'll be 30 this year, like the next month or so.
Okay, so yeah, he's still
got prime years.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's still relatively young, still in the prime of his career. So, in my opinion, if you're the Warriors, you got to make that trade happen.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's just one of those things that has to happen. So we'll see. Again, how that looks, I have zero clue in terms of what they construct there. Do you send a Kuminga? Obviously, you try to get rid of Wiggins and kind of move on from there.
I would want to say that Toronto will ask for Wiggins. And as underwhelming Wiggins has been throughout this season, I would send him personally.
Yeah, I'd probably do the same, to be honest with you. I just think it makes sense to, at this point, get him in a situation where, I don't know, fresh start. I don't even know fresh start, because I feel like Wiggins is a guy, just Golden State's no longer a good fit. Maybe that's the better idea.
It might be, yeah. He might have had his time in Golden State. I feel like his time might be up. Who knows?
There you go. That's more what I mean to say there for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, moving on next. Got some players here I want to ask you about, kind of get your thoughts on how close they would be to actually being traded. We've heard their names a lot over this season up to this point so far, but just rank them. It's only 4 players, most likely to least likely, and just tell me why here. So I have the aforementioned Pascal Siakam. I have Zach LaVine, DeJounte Murray, and Bojan Bogdanovic.
Ooh, so I think Siakam should be at the top of the list, just because I feel like Toronto should be looking to move in a new direction. Obviously, they made the big trade from New York, acquiring RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly. So and obviously, they still have Scotty Barnes, who could be the future franchise player moving forward. So I think it's time to just continue to move in a new direction. So I would have him at the top of the list. Number 2, I want to say DeJounte, but I don't know if he'll get dealt during this year. I feel like they'll probably have him and Trey stay together. So I'll probably put Bogdanovic second. I don't believe that he probably would get traded out, but I feel like he probably would have a higher chance of getting traded rather than DeJounte. I'll say DeJounte third, and then I'll go with Zach LaVine 4. And I know people are probably going to ask why I'm picking Zach LaVine 4, but Zach LaVine's been on the trade radar since pretty much like mid-November. And it's not that he doesn't have any value. I still think that Zach LaVine's a really good player. It's just, what teams are really going to go out of their way to trade for him at this point? Are you going to trade a lot of your young assets to get a guy like Zach LaVine? So that's just my question. It has nothing to do with his play. I still think that he's a great player, but I don't know if there's anybody that's going to trade for him at this point.
Yeah, that contract is a lot for the type
exactly
he is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you there. For the type of player that he is, it feels like you're doing a lot there. Absolutely.
I agree.
Okay. And then as far as I'm gonna throw a little wrench in here too, because I do this, have the surprise against.
Go ahead.
All right. For those 4 players, what is your ideal team fit for them?
So I mentioned Pascal to Golden State. I mentioned DeJounte to San Antonio, I think would be a good fit. And even if not San Antonio. I mean, he'll probably more so want to go on a playoff contender. I mean, I've seen the Lakers swirl around, and honestly, I'm not mad at that fit. I just want to see what the trade would look like and what the Hawks would ask for. But I like that a lot. Levine, I could see Levine in Sacramento. I don't know. Okay. I could possibly see him in Sacramento. I know that they got Kevin Huerter and they got Malik Monk, and Malik is probably more of a better player coming off the bench in the second unit anyway. So if you compare Zach LaVine in that backcourt next to De'Aaron Fox, who knows where they could be. And Bogdanovich, I'm trying to figure a team that needs like a real sharpshooter. I can't say Philly. I think Philly's okay.
Dallas, but they don't.
Dallas, possibly.
Dallas, no, they love it.
I was thinking Miami too, but I don't know. Miami could be a good fit, but I don't know who they would trade. Indiana's looking pretty good. I don't know if they'll make any trades. It's tough.
Yeah.
Minnesota? I don't know.
I like Minnesota.
Yeah.
I like Minnesota. I think they need point guard help though.
That's true. Yeah.
That'll be the big thing I'd be looking at if I were them. Like they need a backup point guard help. And really just point guard help after Mike Conley next season once you're gonna bring him back.
I was thinking, maybe DeJounte in Minnesota as their starting point guard.
Interesting.
I don't know.
And then have Conley come off the bench.
Yeah.
I like it.
Who knows?
Yeah. I guess I would wonder how that would work trade wise.
That's
like
true.
The trade package will be really interesting for that
because I'm sure Atlanta will probably ask for a guy like Jaden McDaniels,
and that's a no-go.
That's a thing too. Yeah, see, that's a tough thing.
That's like you're right. Like on his head. That's why I love talking trades, but it's also hard. And understandably so. I think there should be some nuance there because they need to get this guy. Okay, how do you do that? Who do you trade for it?
Exactly.
Why should that team do that? Just like if you play 2K or I'll play Basketball GM or something. Okay, you make the deal, and in your mind it works out well. But how can you convince the other team that this is something they should also do?
Yeah, I'm really trying to think of a team where I would see Bogdanovich ideally fit.
Milwaukee. No, Milwaukee doesn't need him like that.
I was thinking New York, but I don't know.
They need shooters, but
they do need shooters. But I wonder what that package would look like, especially considering that they just made a trade 2-3 weeks ago.
True that.
Brooklyn, I think Brooklyn's kind of on the decline. I don't know if that would help. God, it's tough. It's tough for Bogdanovich because he's such a great sharpshooter, and I don't know if there's a team that ideally, obviously there's teams that would love to add him to the roster, but I don't know if there's a team that ideally needs perimeter scoring.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that too. It's a tough one, and you're right. And on his head, every team needs it, but then how much do they need to pay to get him, right?
Exactly.
And that's the difference. Do you think a team like Utah makes a move? They have a few guys that could be interesting. John Collins is around there. You could look at a guy, all the shooting guards they have. I'm not saying you look at a Colin Sexton, but you could look at a Jordan Clarkson. Or even Charlotte, a team with, a Terry Rozier.
That's a guy that I want to see move is Terry Rozier.
Yes.
And I even said this last year. I wish the Lakers could have gotten him. The Lakers getting Terry Rozier would have been really, really huge. But
I thought that would been really nice too. He's been on a heater this season. He's been shooting the ball really, really well. And I love that he's had to take on a bigger share of the offense since LaMelo Ball, who's just been back the last 2 games. But LaMelo Ball's obviously been out injured for a large share of it. So, last 6 weeks? And so, in LaMelo's absence, Terry Rozier picked up the playmaking, picked up the shooting, was efficient, had some monster 40-point games. And the Hornets record looks like trash because, they're pretty bad. But I don't think it's a lot of a knock on Terry. And if he's in a more refined role, is he a bench player? I think on a contending team, he probably has to be. But at least that he could be a starter.
I agree. I definitely agree. But as for Utah, I could possibly see Sexton getting dealt. And I feel like now, especially with the emergence of Keontae George, which I think is Utah's guy, I think that's going to be the starting point guard for the future. I could possibly see him getting dealt. John Collins is tough because he just got there to Utah. So I don't know if he does get dealt. But, Jordan Clarkson is a guy that I believe could fit on a real contender. That's a guy that the Lakers could get. Reunite with the Lakers, or just even any other team, in particular, especially with the energy that he brings off the bench. So I could probably see a combination of those 2 or 3 guys. A Colin Sexton, a John Collins, possibly, and even a Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah, those are solid ones for sure. I just hope some move gets made that kind of addresses their need, but I also want to see some trades that we can look back on. In fact, I might even have you on afterwards and be like, okay, do we like this trade? Like, what worked, what didn't work? Like, did we get a good deal for both sides? However that is, contending team, trying to shave money for the off season, whatever the case may be.
I agree. What team was I going to bring up? I'm trying to think of a young team. Do you think a team like Houston could make a trade, or do you think that they're good with what they got? Because I mean, they've been decent to me.
Yeah, Houston's been okay. Houston's been okay. Like I could see them making a move. I just wouldn't know. Like, are they upgrading at what position? Like,
right.
Are they moving off of Jalen Green before the extension comes? He hasn't been super great. Are they trying to make a push for the playoffs early? They've been a great team, but I definitely think they could take it easy this year, be a competitive team, and then go in the offseason, kind of go from there. But
I think the ceiling is probably playing this year. If anything, they'll be a playing team.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. Like they with extensions coming up for several players up and down there, they'll be a team that's going to get more expensive. And you already have Fred VanVleet, who will be off the books conveniently by the time these extensions start. But Fred VanVleet, obviously Dylan Brooks. So yeah, I think that they're fine right now. I think, like you said, their ceiling's a hard play-in team. But I haven't seen anything from them. Like, for example, the next team I'm about to mention, that's like, okay, you know what? Yeah, why not? Like, you're good right now, but you could totally like contend for finals right now. And that team I'm about to bring up is the Oklahoma City Thunder.
That's my team, man. Yeah, I love that team. Do they need to make any trades?
Well, that's what I mean. They don't have to.
Yeah.
And they could potentially, their ceiling could be like Western Conference Finals in my mind.
I think if they, I mean, I definitely agree. I definitely believe that they can make the conference finals this year, especially with how great they've been. It's funny too, because I was having this conversation last year with a couple guys, and they were thinking like, man, like, give OKC like another 3-4 years. And I was like, man, this team, like with the roster that they have, and you got to think even last year they didn't even have Chet Holmgren. Like when you look at like their roster like fully healthy, I was like, yo, this team could be possibly be a contender now, because even last year they got to the play-in, they beat New Orleans in their first game, ended up losing to Minnesota. So I mean, obviously they come back this year and they're fully healthy, and it's like, man, like this team is really, really good. But if they could make any tweaks, I don't know if they would bring in more wing shooters or not. I mean, but then again, it's like, I mean, I like the roster that they have now. I think everybody's playing their role to perfection, and it just seems like everybody's clicking.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those things where they're they're working right now, and they're young and they're together, and it's a good core. I don't think if you bring in a guy like help it to accentuate this roster, right, and not really stand out, because the way they have their structure going is pretty good. But I agree with you completely. Like it's something where you don't have to, and you'll still be good. So, like you are in a good spot, and if you want to go for literally almost anybody available in the trade market, you have more than enough draft capital to make that happen without losing any of your integral pieces.
I agree.
Like that is a hell of a hand.
And that's my thing too, because what would a trade look like if they had to, or if they tried to acquire a guy like Bogdanovich? Like I don't know if they're getting rid of a lot of their key pieces.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like that's what I mean. Like you're not losing much anyway. Any expiring salary, probably Davis Bertans contract. Maybe a protected first, a couple seconds, whatever the case may be. Probably a protected first, to be honest with you. And then like boom, and if that's the guy you think will make the difference, then I mean they're kind of similar archetypes, but Bogdanovich has been more consistent and actually playing. There's a reason why we're bringing him up and not Davis Bertans in the trade. But like if that works, boom. And you haven't lost anyone of I hate to say it's the Bertans, but anyone of note on your team with their current direction,
No, I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah, man. But let me get to my next question here. And this is the last one for the trades. But we're both on social media a lot. We're both sharing our work, looking at other people's interacting, all the things. What trade have you seen out there, wherever? Facebook, God bless those. Twitter, Instagram, anything else? Like, what's the favorite trade you've seen this week? And why you like it? Well, let's just share one.
I haven't really seen a lot of trades, because it's funny because people across my timeline will have the trade machines just rolling, but I haven't seen. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot recently. I think the only thing that I've really seen, like I said, is rumors, and I mean we've already mentioned this, but DeJounte to San Antonio came up, and that was the one that I really liked, just because it's like I mentioned before. I think that if they get like a real point guard, like who has real playmaking tendencies, like DeJounte has, I think that it would be really beneficial for. I got like Victor Wembanyama, and it's not to diss Trey Jones because I'm a personal fan of Trey Jones. I've been a fan of his since college, but I don't know if he's the ideal fit as the starting point guard for their franchise. Obviously, being in the second unit, possibly, yeah, but as far as being a starting point guard, I'm not 100% sure. So that's probably the one that I say that I did actually see that I was actually really impressed by was DeJounte San Antonio, but surprisingly, I haven't seen many, but I'm sure that'll change, over the next few weeks.
Okay, I like it. No, for sure. I have 2 trades I'm gonna run by you here.
Good.
All right. There's a trade between the Blazers and the Warriors. DeAndre Ayton and Malcolm Brogdon to Golden State for Chris Paul, Andrew Wiggins, and Jonathan Kuminga.
Honestly, I like it. I kind of hate that. And it's crazy, too, because when Chris Paul first got traded to Golden State, I hated it. But as I've watched him throughout the season, he's been really, really good. Mm-hmm. But I would definitely make that happen. I know that DeAndre, a lot of people, they love him or hate him. And I know that he doesn't blend with, like, a lot of the centers today as far as, like, as far as the versatility and everything. But I still think he's very valuable. Obviously, Malcolm Brogdon, who is coming off of a 6 Man of the Year winner, being in Boston. So I think obviously with him, adding some key production off the bench, I think that'll be really, really big. Where does that lead them to? Does it elevate them as contenders? I think that it does make them better, but I don't know if it elevates them over like the Denvers or the OKCs or anything. But I mean, it's a good trade.
Yeah, I definitely think it's solid. I was, my friend sent me that and I was like, I kind of like that one. I can't even lie. That's a pretty good one. But the second one I'm going to run by you here, get your thoughts. Cleveland sends Jared Allen, Isaac Okoro, George Niang, and Amani Bates to Portland for Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams, and Duop the Reed. Now, this isn't mine. I didn't make this trade, but I'm just curious on your thoughts. On its head, I say the Cavaliers say no. That's too much.
Yeah, I agree. Grant. I definitely agree. And I mean, even if the trade were to go down, I mean, it's okay. Jeremy Grant's a great player. I'm a fan of his, but I don't know if it.
Is he that kind of changer that you give away your starting big man, a serviceable small forward, your backup big? Yeah.
Right, and that's my thing too, because I mean, and I've been on record saying that, I think that Cleveland's still trying to find their ideal wing player because I think that, we expect Karis LeVert to be that guy, but I don't know if this really panned out for him. Obviously, Isaac Okoro, who's a great perimeter defender, but he's not a great shooter on the offensive end. So I still think that they're trying to find that dynamic wing. And I'm not saying that that Jeremy Grant would not make a difference, because I definitely believe that he can, but I don't know if it'll make much of a difference, as far as trading away your starting big man for a guy of this caliber.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think it's one of those things where, like, the juice is worth the squeeze.
Right.
In that way. Absolutely. But yeah, that I mean, I always like to ask people when I'm talking trades, like, have they seen one they like or they don't like or they should talk about? Because it starts conversation, good, bad, or indifferent, right?
Exactly. So hey man, next time I come on, I might have a few. I mean, especially once those those trade machines start rolling.
Listen, I might have you on next Trade Tuesday. We'll see what's up, man, for sure.
Yeah, I got it.
Have my people talk to your people or whatever.
Right.
Now, lastly, bro, it's the last question I have for you tonight. It's crazy because, like I said, I cannot believe this is the first time you've been on the show. Definitely not the last, but we watch basketball, we talk basketball. Most of us play basketball, right? Whether you're really good, whether you're not so good, I don't really care. What I do care about, what is your go-to move in pickup? Like, what is the one thing that you like? Okay, I need to get a bucket. Whether it's I need to get a bucket and I don't have a go-to move, so I pass the ball. Whether it's I'm taking you off the dribble, I have a left hand like crossover that I do to a spin to the right for a layup, and then I have like a step back jumper on the left hand side. I got a Kevin Martin jumper, but it works. It's like that's mine. But what is yours?
It's so funny. So when you sent me this question earlier, I had to think because I don't play as much basketball as I used to. I need to get back to it. Especially doing a lot of pickups. But I was a good ball handler, but I wasn't like creative with the rock. Like I'm not crossing people up, putting them to the ground. I'm not gonna go in between the legs, this and that, like multiple times. So I mean that wasn't necessarily my style. But
you get where you need to go.
Exactly. But one thing that I'll say is that, at least for me growing up, I was a huge Kobe Bryant fan. So I try to emulate literally everything that he did. the footwork, like literally everything. So one thing that I'll say is that one thing that I tried to do was I definitely, at least on a few occasions, I would at least definitely get my way to the post, call for the ball, call for the rock, probably take a few dribbles, try put my shoulder into the defender, and then probably turn on my right shoulder and then fade away. That was probably my go-to move. I at least try to get it at least once or twice in a game. Sometimes it wouldn't go down, or sometimes it would go down, sometimes it wouldn't go down, but I definitely try to hit people with that move at least a few times. Actually, it's funny. I remember, I think I was like a freshman in high school, so I don't know if people remember, but I remember when Rondo used to go like kind of like, like a fake pass like behind the back and then go for the layup. Yeah, I actually pulled that one time, but it was on accident. I don't know how it was on accident. Yeah, it's crazy. Like it was actually on accident. I want to say I was going to pass the ball, but maybe I saw a defender, getting away. So I kind of like faked it, and then I just ended up going for the layup. And the everyone's like, "Oh shoot, that's the Rondo!" And I was like, I kind of played it off like like I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, this is what I do.
But in hindsight, I didn't actually plan on doing that at all. That was totally by accident.
That's cool. That's funny.
Yeah.
That reminds me of trying to think. Remember Rudy Fernandez?
Yeah.
He had like a crazy like layup over his head when he wasn't
I
looking.
remember that, yeah.
I did one of those.
Really?
And I did not mean to. Same thing. I was actually like running hard, like cutting across the baseline, like just to clear the floor for, one of my teammates to occupy the corner.
Right.
And the guard at the top of the key saw me and passed me the ball. And I wasn't really expecting it. And I'm like, okay, reverse layup. But my momentum was pushing me far that way. So I took the ball and threw it up over my head, thinking that the backboard was like right underneath me. But I moved so fast, the backboard was like 3 feet to the left. But I literally tossed it up and I was still going that way. And everyone goes, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh, that went in." So I just tried to keep a straight face and just kept walking. Like, and someone asked, "How'd you do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, man,
you just gotta play it off."
Exactly. I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'll just be in my bag sometimes. I don't even know what pull out there."
Nah, that's what's up, man. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes when you're on that court, you just never know what you can do. Like you'll just start magically playing something. Especially if you play basketball long enough and you watch long enough, and you just start taking moves from certain players. You just pull something out of your bag that you probably didn't even know that you had. It's crazy.
Yeah, like it's hard to describe it, but it's literally like a feel of the game.
That's true.
Same thing. Why you can't really describe momentum, but it's a thing, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a solid point because like people can't really describe momentum. It's just it's just when you got it, you got it.
Exactly. They'll go, "Oh, the momentum's broken." And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like just how if you watch enough basketball, after a couple of shots go in a row, coach gonna call that T.
Exactly. And then once that first miss happens, change momentum.
Right? Exactly.
Crazy.
And it could diffuse a run just like that. It's wild. Like that's why I think one of the many reasons we love basketball, but the patterns, the rhythm,
that is definitely a fact. I'm so glad somebody really explained it because I don't know if a lot of people really understand that.
Yeah, it's different, man, but I love it. It's what gives. That's why ball has us in a grip, right?
Exactly. That's a fact.
Oh man, but listen, bro, it's been a blast having you on. Thank you so much for coming on. Just spend some time here talking basketball trades, all of it. I appreciate you for real.
No doubt, for sure. And on top of that, man, we got to get you on for the love of the game too, man. I know. I tried a few times, man.
Hey, I'm a horrible scheduler.
No, you're good, man. The schedules just wasn't able to come together, man. But now we're gonna definitely make it happen for sure. But now I appreciate you for having me on.
Oh, absolutely, man. Please, you do so much. Whether you write in, whether you podcast in, whether you just tweet, let the good folks know where they can find you and your work.
Yes, sir. Follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, Nick Andre TR. You'll see everything content-wise from writing, podcast, and everything. Shout out to my guys at MNC Hoop. Shout out to Michael and CJ. Live every Sunday at 9 o'clock Eastern. Take that back, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. To be able to tune in for that. I host a show myself called For the Love of the Game, where I cover everything basketball from NBA, WNBA, college, you name it. Make sure to check that out as well. And then I do a whole bunch of other stuff as well, man. So just follow me on my Twitter or X page, man, and you'll see all the content.
Yeah, definitely make sure to do that because he's one of the best in the game when it comes to being consistent, putting out work, and doing it in a variety of forms. So check out your guy. Also, I'm always supporting the brothers out here in the space because you don't see a lot of them like that in a way. That just always something always in my brain. I'm just saying. Like I love everyone doing it, that. But you kind of look and you're like, wow, like they're really on a whole lot.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
It's crazy, man. But I definitely appreciate you, man. Salute you. Like, I look up to you in your work and just trying to be as consistent on that end as well. So thank you for that, for real.
Nah, thank you, man. Once again, man, we definitely got to do this again, man. Even when the trade deadline goes down, man, I'm definitely the one to hit up.
Oh, we're gonna make it happen for sure. I'm definitely putting this in the book, and we got to record it, so we got that.
Sir.
Absolutely, man. And you can follow me on Twitter or X, whatever, at Corban NBA, CORBAN NBA. Any podcasts that drop, any random interactions I'll be giving, all of that is there. You can also check me on Instagram. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I don't put anything on Instagram, but it's good to have followers, so check me out there as well. But listen, y'all, this has been a blast. Again, thank you for Nick for hopping on. Before Nick, for myself, we are Frosty. Y'all stay frosty, and we'll talk to y'all real soon. All right, y'all.